Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 16th, 2019 regular business board meeting. At this time, I will take public comment on action items only. That is, if we're going to vote on it, we'll take public comment at this time. If we're not going to vote on it, please wait till the end of the meeting. We'll have another opportunity for questions or comments on any item. So at this time, is there any public comment on a action item? Please come sign in with Ms. LaPera. Okay. Is it on an action item?
I don't know. Are you planning to discuss Chester Valley design approval tonight?
It's not as an action item.
It's not as an action item.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
But
you
we'll
very
have
much.
opportunity at the end.
Okay.
Commissioner Churchill. Okay, at this time, I'd like to approve the attached minutes from the Board of School Directors meeting, the August 19th regular business board meeting, the September 9th Education Committee meeting, as well as accepting the following committee meeting minutes: September 4th curriculum, September 6th policy, and September 12th facilities and purchasing. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? The motion passes. At this time, I am moving to appoint the superintendent pursuant to Section 1073 of the Public School Code. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors renew the employment contract between Robert Copeland as Superintendent of Schools for a 5-year term to commence July 1st, 2020 and end June 30th, 2025. It is further recommended that the Board of School Directors approve the employment contract between the district and Mr. Copeland in the form presented. And I would like to ask Mr. Roos at this time to give us a summary of the details.
Thank you. I'm happy to. The reappointment is a 5-year contract. Raises are increments of 1.5% per year for each year. There is a change to the tax sheltered annuity, increased from $4,000 to $7,000. And there is also, let me just bring my notes here.
It's percent, Ken.
Yes, I'm sorry. I had my, and the last, I believe those are the major changes. There's also a provision in the contract for reimbursement of expenses for nighttime travel as required by board meetings.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'm asking if there are any questions from the board at this time, not discussion, but questions, if anyone just has any questions. Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I just would like to read a statement on behalf of the Board of School Directors. Since coming on board to lead our district in 2015, Superintendent Copeland has been the guiding force in continuing our pursuit of excellence in education for every child in Lower Merion and Narberth. His unique combination of foresight and experience is enabling our district to meet the challenges posed by increasing enrollment while simultaneously improving upon the already excellent education our district provides. Superintendent Copeland has been instrumental in transitioning our strategic plan, called All Forward, from aspiration to reality. His willingness to disrupt the status quo, even when that status quo is very good, in pursuit of excellence, has led to data-driven changes in the way we measure student success, encourages student voice, provides professional development for our teachers and staff, and ensures that equity is a guiding principle of every decision our district makes. Under his leadership, our district is building and strengthening community partnerships and inspiring our staff's creativity, to elevate their connections to students in new ways. Superintendent Copeland strives to ensure that all students meet their potential through actionable steps and measurable outcomes. He created the Achievement Imperative Task Force, which has led to the implementation of restorative practices in our schools, created opportunities for jump starts and on-ramps, and increased parent engagement. He has overseen evaluations of our learning support and gifted education programs and implemented changes to ensure they are serving the best interests of our students. He looks at and beyond standardized testing to ensure that we are meeting the holistic needs of our students. Superintendent Copeland's thorough understanding of the intricacies of school budgeting has enabled him to oversee bond refinancing that netted about $800,000 for the district, and the district was able to acquire the land necessary for the new middle school without taking on additional debt. And he continues to work through every detail of the middle school planning process with the architectural team to maximize the building's ability to support the students, staff, and curriculum while minimizing the impact on the taxpayers of our township and borough. His expertise in the complex processes involved in budgeting for and planning a new school and considering everything from land acquisition and development to facilities, staffing, student transition, and curriculum has our district poised to build a 21st century middle school for grades 5 through 8 that will be a model many others will likely emulate. Our board, our residents, and our students are very fortunate to have Superintendent Copeland's considerable talents, vision, and energy at our disposal as we embark on the next exciting phase of our district's future. At this time, I'm going to open it up for discussion by board members if there's anybody who would like to discuss. Okay, then I'm going to ask for a roll call, Ms. LaPera.
Okay, thank you. Lori Ackman? Yay. Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Or nay. That would be your choices.
David Fetterman?
Yes.
Deborah Finger?
Aye.
Ben Driscoll?
Yes.
Virginia Pollard?
Yes.
Robin Van Lynch?
Yes.
Suba Robinson?
Aye.
Diane DiBonaventuro?
Aye.
Melissa Gilbert?
Aye.
That's 9 in favor, motion
The
passes.
motion passes. Congratulations. We're very, very excited. Would you like to say something?
I really don't want to say something, but I will say something. I'm happy that this is the last time I'll have to say something like this. I should have written something out, but I thought I'd speak directly from the heart. This has been a singular, unexpected honor to be working in a place like Lower Merion. My father was a policeman. He passed when I was young. My mother was a telephone operator, for those of you who remember what telephone operators were. My father's father was a Pullman porter. My mother's father was a dock worker. I think they'd be proud and surprised. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as I said, we're absolutely thrilled that you will continue as our superintendent, and I think at this time, and I've now lost my place because I apologize. Oh, I'm actually going to turn it over to you.
Oh,
Are
yeah,
you
that's
ready
just
for
what we
that?
needed. I don't know.
Are you trying to?
Can you read this one? All right,
Would you like me to do that?
No, I'll do that.
Okay.
Pursuant to section, yeah, go ahead and read it.
Okay. I don't have a whole speech because you were supposed to give the speech.
I'm gonna give the
okay.
speech.
All right. I'm going to just read it out. So pursuant to Section 1076 of the Public School Code, it is recommended that the Board of School Directors renews the employment contract between the district and Dr. Scott Eveslag, Assistant Superintendent, for a term to commence July 1st, 2020 and end June 30th, 2025. It is further recommended that the Board of School Directors approve the employment contract between the district and Dr. Eveslag in the form presented.
Thank you. If I can just say a word. Upon arriving in Lower Merion in July of 2015, I began my usual transition activities, and one of the most important is to meet with each school principal. As principal of Harridan High School at the time, Dr. Eveslage immediately impressed me with his knowledge of the school, administration. Our conversation drifted into curriculum, and when I questioned him about the strategic plan, it was clear he was an early advocate. As things developed and the search for a new assistant superintendent began, Scott reached out to me and asked if I was going to consider someone who didn't have any central office experience. Pretty bold, don't you think? As someone who went from a principalship to a similar position, I was very open to that possibility. You can imagine that Lower Merion attracted many qualified candidates, but Scott's experience and knowledge of the community serving in 2 schools as a principal won me over. Since that time, Scott, as the second in command, if you will, has become an integral part of district administration. He has taken on many tough tasks, such as implementation of the strategic plan and the Achievement Task Force, both of which he has excelled. As the other commissioned officer, and I'm really not sure what that means, but they tell me he and I are one, I know I can depend on his hard work and dedication. It is with great pleasure and without hesitation that I recommend the renewal of Scott Eveslage's reappointment as Assistant Superintendent of Schools.
Are there any questions at this time? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Suba. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Oh, I'm so sorry. You are absolutely right. I apologize. Okay, I apologize. Go.
I was out to dinner on Saturday night with a couple of friends, and we were talking about the schools. Surprise, surprise. But the fact of the matter is, it was a family whose kids line up with mine. And both had started out at Belmont Hills with Judy Vetri, moved on to Welch Valley under Scott, and then moved on to Harridan under Scott as well.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I didn't make a comment about Mr. Copeland was that I would have said that he chooses very good administrators. And I just wanted to say that it's been an honor to serve with you and work with you and to have and my kids grow up with you, so to speak, through the school system. And very happy to vote for you.
Thank you very much. And I know that the sentiment is shared by all of us. So, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes, and I just want to say thank you, Scott, for continuing in your position, and we're really thrilled that we have the whole team here to move forward, and we're very lucky to have this team. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Copeland.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. I have some highlights I'd like to go over. Let me begin my report with some updates on enrollment growth and how that growth impacts our facilities. Today we ran our 10th day enrollment report, which is used as a benchmark throughout the year for our yearly enrollment. As you can expect, it's usually a much anticipated number. Our current enrollment is 8,800 students. In comparison, September 2014, just 5 years ago, the 10th day enrollment was 8,053 students. The district continues to grow at about 200 students a year. The impact of increasing enrollment is what necessitates the construction of a new middle school. And with the new middle school configuration of grades 5, 6, 7, and 8, this grading configuration opens up space in each of our elementary schools and existing middle schools. This strategy was recommended because it puts the district, now and in the future, in a more proactive planning process. If our demographer is correct and our highest projected enrollment hovers at about 9,400 and levels off, we should be fine with this construction. However, as I have stated on numerous occasions in multiple venues, we are placed in a reactive mode. We cannot control the plans for new housing or increases in enrollment. Unlike our independent school colleagues who can control their enrollment and growth, our entrance requirements are a birth certificate and an address within the district. As such, I remain concerned that the new zoning codes being contemplated by Lower Merion Township will hamper our ability, or a future board and administration's ability, to make school construction decisions. should our enrollment grow to, say, 10,500. From what I understand, similar restrictions that happened when the 2 high schools were being built. Should that happen, we would be exactly then where we are now, fighting to provide appropriate access to facilitate for public school students. Some long-term residents may remember that having over 10,000 students in the district was prevalent in the 1970s. Thus, we have taken steps where we can go to where we can to protect zoning allowances and making current improvements. For example, we expect to add hard surface play space at Penwyn Elementary School as early as next year. Parents and some residents have expressed concern that with increased enrollment, children cannot adequately play during wet and snow field days. In discussions with the school administration, this would be a welcome relief. I've heard public comment that if you are zoned in a way that reduces your ability to adapt one school, just move students to where you have more, for example, impervious surface. There are 2 concerns I have with that. First, of course, it does not solve the problem. It simply moves it somewhere else. And secondly, it doesn't consider modification of existing core facilities such as gymnasiums and cafeterias. I have further heard that the superintendent has under board policy the ability to move children in apartment houses. Again, 2 concerns. First, the policy speaks to moving the attendance zones before occupancy. Well, we cannot always guess what the occupancy will be until the facility is occupied. Secondly, proximity to schools matters. The Royal Athena Apartments, for example, which today has a student enrollment of 30 students with an all-time high a couple of years ago of about 40, cannot easily be moved to other schools, which, by the way, are also experiencing enrollment growth. Correlated to that, I believe that the children living in apartments are every bit a part of the school community as children in single-family houses. The good news is at the last Finance and Facility meeting, we had a very exciting and impressive update from our architects on the development and the design of the new middle school. I would encourage members of the public to view those slides on board docs. We also had an interesting presentation from 3 Lower Merion High School teachers on how we might configure existing space into an innovation center and take advantage of our strategic plan. As we have said, the new school should inspire us to make as many design adaptations as we can to our existing schools. We are continuing to work with Lower Merion Township on the design of field space, critical to the needs of children attending that school. And now, for some really good news. 9 Lower Merion School District students were recently honored for their submissions to the 2019 Philadelphia Young Playwrights. Frankie Lockenauer, who attended Ballackinwood Middle School until her family recently moved out of state, won first place in the middle school category for her piece entitled Parents Trapped. I'm inspired to read that. Her submission was selected from more than 650 entries from students in 40 different schools throughout the greater Philadelphia area. Lower Merion High School recently accepted the donation of 2 5-star flags from the Cassia Mount Horeb Masonic Lodge. The flags are replicas of one currently in the Smithsonian that honor LM alumnus General Hap Arnold, who was the only service member to hold the rank of 5-star general in both the Army and the Air Force. The school will fly the flags on national holidays and General Arnold's birthday. And finally, congratulations to Welsh Valley Middle School social studies teacher Chris Gary, who was recently named among the 2019 top teachers around the Main Line and western suburbs by Main Line Today. He and 14 other educators were recently featured in an article on Main Line Today's website detailing their exemplary efforts in the classroom. And that concludes my update. Also, under superintendent, the administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the specially appointed hearing examiners resolution excluding students from school and removing them from the roles of the Lower Merion School District due to the lack of residency as per exhibits SU1 and SU2.
I'm going to ask for questions at this time, but I have a question. It's my understanding that these students were not currently actually coming to school. Is that correct?
That's correct. They're not in attendance as
They're
of today.
not in attendance at the school. Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Are there any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? The motion passes.
Under Human Resources, the administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the attached human resource actions, HR 1 through HR 5.
Are there any questions? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Sorry. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? The motion passes. At this time, Dr. Van Lynch is going to read the Curriculum Committee report.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. The Curriculum Committee met on Tuesday, September 4th. Ms. Suba Robinson acted on my behalf as I had a professional commitment. Thank you, Ms. Robinson. She's on this side now. 8:30 a.m. in this room. We had a number of presentation topics, which were all the discussion of last week's Education Committee meeting on September 9th. So I'd encourage those of you interested for additional detail to view that meeting date. The first update we received from Ms. Frazier and Dr. Nure was around the evaluation of the Gifted program. The program recommendation was to consider hiring a consultant with expertise in the screening and identification of gifted students. Since then, particularly to redesign the universal screening process. Since then, Dr. Jonathan Plucker was brought on board in a consulting capacity to support I don't want to say redesign, the consideration of changes to our Gifted program. We anticipate receiving recommendations from his work to be provided in more detail this fall. The second recommendation was around professional development, again, in collaboration with the Chester County Intermediate Unit, as well as additional professional development to be held, that was held in June, as well as a boot camp for gifted support teachers. So again, quite a bit going on in terms of the evaluation process. And you might recall that Dr. Paul led us in the organization of this comprehensive analysis. So we want to certainly thank the team for all of this work. The third recommendation was around comprehensive information about the program, particularly in terms of our stakeholders, parents and students who are part of the program, as well as staff and administrators who work with the program as well. The fourth recommendation was to redesign the service delivery model or adopt a new one that is directly related to the mission, goals, and objectives of the program. So again, quite a bit of work at play in terms of our Gifted program. The proposed next steps are to provide push-in talent development for grades K to 2, flexible groupings for grades 3 to 4, and pull out based on the needs of each student. Future action steps for the committee for 1920 school year include an evaluation of the middle school delivery model for grades 5 to 8, and evaluation of universal screening and professional development. The second update we received was regarding the progress of program evaluation of academic supports by Dr. Christina Paul. This evaluation is in place to make judicious choices about the way the district resources are organized to support students who struggle academically. The following areas are being explored and in process at this time. Evaluation rubrics to synthesize evidence into an overall evaluative judgment. As a result of using the evaluation rubrics, programs would be 1, continued as currently implemented, expanded, refined, and monitored, or discontinued. The academic support programs reviewed include, or in process of being reviewed, include reading support, math support, and achievement team activities, supplemental courses for math literacy or study skills, and specialized programs for students at risk of falling behind or disengaging, specifically the NOW program and the communications lab. And the final update we received was regarding the one-to-one tutoring program. The evaluation of the efficacy of the program was done with a focus on pre-teaching received by 84 students in the subject of mathematics. Classroom teachers reported that tutored students displayed increased confidence, better preparedness for class, and increased participation. And again, just to echo the sentiments of Dr. Gilbert in terms of the innovativeness and the commitment to our student success, Mr. Copeland brought this to the board and the curriculum committee some time ago, and it's fantastic to see that our students are able to take advantage of such a program that is certainly state-of-the-art. And so with that, our meeting adjourned, and we will meet again on Tuesday, October 8th at 8:30 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Van Lynch.
Under curriculum, the administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the attached overnight trips.
Are there any questions? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? The motion passes.
Under student services, I'd like to take items A through D in one motion.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, and I wasn't at the committee where this was discussed. I was just wondering if these were new services or continuation of existing services.
I'm sorry, which one?
Well, there's a few different items related to mental health services in this bundle.
Mrs. Frazier?
To provide the psychologist, you're talking about this?
Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
I apologize, but my
I think we have too many of us mic'd up.
Oh, you may have. Okay.
Okay, can you, okay, thank you. So the Thank you. So the agreement with Montgomery County Intermediate Union and Pearson-driven clinical solutions are renewal contracts based on student needs. The CCIU contract for psychological services is because we have a medical leave for one of our current district psychologists that we needed to cover. So that one's new.
was just wondering if, based on recent assessment, we thought we needed to fill in more, but it sounds like,
No.
yeah. I mean, I wanted to get a sense of that.
So, are there any other questions? Okay. Did you want to say something?
No.
Okay, you had your...
I'm just going to read.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve?
Do you want me to read them?
Oh, that would help.
He has to read them.
The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the student services items as listed. Agreement for students receiving non-district educational services SS1 to SS7. Further, the administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approve the attached CCIU contract to provide a psychologist for the 2019-20 school year at $739.97 per day. C, the administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approve the attached temporary staffing services agreement with MCIU for behavioral management services through June 14th, 2020 for $565 a day. And finally, the administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approve the attached person-driven clinical solutions contract to provide consultation, counseling for students with disabilities for a term of 1 year in the amount of $25 per quarter hour.
Okay, now we're ready at this time. Are there any questions? No. Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? The motion passes. And at this time, we'll have a report of the Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting from September 12th by Mr. Driscoll.
Thank you very much. So we met this past Thursday at 8:30. We actually began this time with a presentation from members of the Lower Merion High School staff, a plan on how existing space in Lower Merion High School could be reconfigured to build open learning centers. The team visited corporate offices and other schools to see how open space concepts would work. There is no current plan to reconstruct interior space at Lower Merion High School at this time, but rather this presentation was to show ideas of what such a project could look like in the future. And as Mr. Copeland said, their ideas dovetailed well into the designs we're seeing for the new middle school. We then moved on to regular business, where we reviewed and recommended for approval list of bills, reviewed and recommended for approval the following items on the purchasing report. Stanley Security Solutions, $8,816.50. Repair the burglar alarm system at Harrington, and is now approximately 10 years old and reached the end of its useful life. J.P. Gallagher Construction, $8,825. To seal coat the teacher parking lot and 2 bus loops at Gladwin. Other parts of the driveways and parking lots were milled and replaced at Gladwin this summer. These portions of driveway and parking lots were in better shape and only needed the seal coating, which can only be done after the other work was completed. Tri-State HVAC equipment, $9,962.87. Install a new controller for the chiller at Lower Merion High School, as the existing one is approximately 10 years old and reached the end of its useful life. And then Tri-State Elevator Company, $8,952 to repair the lift at the BC Auditorium. We reviewed and recommended for approval the following district contacts, which we just discussed. MCIU for $565 for the Certified Behavioral Specialist, CCIU $739.97 for a psychologist to fill in for ours who's on medical leave, and then the Pearson-driven Clinical Solutions, $25 per quarter hour to provide counselors to assist students with disabilities in managing adolescent behaviors. We then discussed Plan Cons A and B. This is not an additional cost. It's baked into what we've already got. To allow Spiesel Architecture Group and the administration to submit PD required documents under Act 34. This is part of the Plan Con application process for the school building at 1860 Montgomery Ave, which is part of the Plan Con A part, and to have a meeting with PDE to review such documents, which is the B part. Contract with Reynolds Construction, $1,918,000. With an option for it to support LEED certification for an additional $70,000. Reynolds Construction has provided support for the 1860 construction to date under a current contract that covers such services. At this time, we are entering into this next phases of demolition, site preparation, construction, and closeout. So these services we need to be added into this contract, and that's what this covers. Advanced Protection Company, not to exceed $70,000. At this time, various vendors are entering and leaving the site to perform work, and this contract is to provide overnight security for 1860. Spiesel Architecture Group, $855,000. As the project at 1860 West Montgomery has advanced, this amendment to the contract is to cover the next phases, which are called design development. Chester Valley Engineers, not to exceed $25,000 to assist the district in providing plans for additional classrooms at Harrington for possible enrollment growth. Then we discussed the following change orders. Prism Response, a decrease of $15,806. There were various amounts for various items projected for hazardous and environmental damaging materials to be removed from 1860. This decrease reflects the lower amount of work needed to remove those items. Then there was another one from Prism Response, an increase of $14,462.18. As wood paneling was removed at 1860, additional ductwork was discovered that contained hazardous materials which needed to be disposed of. And then the last change order was McCarthy Masonry, an increase of $7,200 to cover additional masonry facade repair work that was conducted this past summer at Penn Valley. And that concluded our business. We then received 2 project updates, the new middle school. We did discuss the rough layout and elevations of the proposed school. We also discussed construction costs that have increased primarily due to the unforeseen bedrock under the building site. Until some of the existing buildings were removed, we could not conduct full underground geotechnical surveys to discover what was buried beneath the surface. Now that we've conducted most of those surveys, we will need to remove bedrock. Yes, some blasting will be required to repair the site. The primary driver in this increase is the simple elevation of the property. The proposed building site is approximately 80 feet above Montgomery Avenue. In order to get buses safely to the school, the building site must be lowered by approximately 10 to 20 feet in places in order to accommodate bus traffic safely. We then briefly discussed the athletic fields at 1835 County Line Road. We had a meeting with the Building and Planning Committee of the township held the previous night with tentative sketch plans submitted by the district that were rejected apparently over the district's failure to obtain a full report from the Historic Commission. It should be noted that the district administration has met with the Historic Commission on this project. The district is evaluating its options, and it should be noted the district's position is clear that adequate, not simply any field space, is needed at 1835 County Line Road in order to support the school at 1860 Montgomery Avenue. We then concluded our meeting, and our next meeting will be October 17th at 8:30 in this room.
Thank you, Mr. Driscoll. Mr. Orlando.
Under the Business Office and Finance section, I'd like to take items B through E in one motion. The administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the following action items: approve list of bills, approve the financial report for August 2019, accept with pleasure pursuant to policy 702 the following donations: a bike rack valued at $800, 7 outdoor group benches valued at $3,000, a commemorative mural in honor of retired Principal Ann Heffron, valued at approximately $4,000, to be placed in the Marion Elementary School cafeteria. And these are from the Marion Home and School Association to the Marion Elementary School. A utility trailer valued at $5,000 from the Lower Marion High School Crew Association to Lower Marion High School Crew Team, and declare surplus equipment as surplus property and authorize the disposition thereof.
Okay, I just want to say on behalf of the board and administration, we're grateful to the Marion Elementary School Home and School Association and to the Lower Marion High School Crew Association for the gifts. Are there any questions? Sure, go ahead, Diane.
Thanks. I meant to ask this on Thursday morning, and it slipped my mind. We have two very large transfers of money to Commonwealth Agency, Inc. So it's about $10 million altogether. Is that purchase of property?
Yes.
Are there any other questions? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? The motion passes. At this time, I would like to ask if anyone would like to speak about, there is an action item from Chester Valley, but it's related to Harriton High School, not Penn Wynne Elementary School. So I just want to make sure that there wasn't anybody who wanted to give us public comment around Harriton High School. Would you like to do that, Commissioner Churchill? Sorry, I misunderstood. I assumed it was in relation to Penn Wynne Elementary School. So I just want to make sure. And anyone else who would like to give us public comment before we vote on that issue, please come sign in with Ms. LaPera. Please state who you are. And I think we know who you are, but you can state that for the record, and generally where you live, and then there's 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Rick Churchill. I'm from Penn Wynne, and I'm here to request that this board not approve expenses for Chester Valley Design for the expansion at Harriton High School. You've been told, or the board has been told, that if you don't take advantage of Harriton's current zoning, you won't be able to expand, and that's simply not true. Tonight is a continuation of a story that began years ago when the school district filed expansion plans at Penn Wynne Elementary School, the smallest campus with the most number of elementary students. There was strenuous objections to this expansion then, and there is now. Looking elsewhere, the school district directed your attention in creating a new middle school at 1860 Montgomery Avenue. There were several severe zoning and developmental obstacles, yet a majority of the Board of Commissioners, including myself, supported every one of Lower Marion School's initiatives. One of those votes was to increase the impervious surface allowance at 1860. By law, we cannot rezone just a single piece of property. That's spot zoning, and that's illegal. So we rezoned school land parcels over 5 acres, which meant we upzoned Harriton High School and Welsh Valley. temporarily. The thinking was that the Board of Commissioners would return Penn Valley and Harriton High School to its previous impervious percentage when we adopt a new zoning code, which will not happen probably this year. You asked for our help and our cooperation at 1860, and you got it. When it comes to Harriton expansion, what proof do you have that the township will not work with you to make sure you get the relief you need? The township has put our trust in you by creating a loophole. Tonight, you can choose to exploit this loophole or not. The irony is that you don't need to submit plans under this loophole in order to get what you need, just as we worked with the township at 1860. So again, please don't allocate funds for the Chester Valley engineers tonight. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Commissioner Churchill. I just want to make a clarification. So the potential addition of science classrooms at Harriton has been under discussion since, I think, 2014, I believe, when we first laid out the potential, I don't know how many options we had. It may have been 8, something like that, in the flyer that we sent home, sent to the community. And at that time, we were looking at adding classrooms just for the science classrooms at Harriton, because we allow our students to take more than one science a year. And so given that the projected increases, we thought we would likely need to add science classrooms. And that was before the commissioners voted for what you're calling the loophole at 1860. And so the proposal, where's Jim? I believe that the proposal, although actually it's before you were, it was when Pat was here, the proposal for adding science classrooms was under the previous zoning. In other words, without the change at 1860, we still had the impervious space in order to build those classrooms. So I just want to make that clarification. I believe I'm correct on that.
Dr. Gilbert, you are correct. There's a number of PowerPoint presentations that are on our records and even on the public website that do show a consideration of a building expansion behind the current fitness center. It's always been there in everything I've seen in the records. It's on the website, and those documents date back well before the township started any of the zoning changes over the past year or so.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I was correct in my memory, which sometimes isn't always correct. So, is there anyone else who wanted to make a comment about that particular issue? Okay, and then at the end of the meeting, we'll have our usual, people can make comments or ask questions about anything.
Under the facilities and operations, I'm going to take the motions A through G in one motion. All these.
I'd like to take that one that he raised separately.
Okay. All right. So we'll take F. We'll separate F. So we'll do A through E, and then we'll do G. And all these items were discussed and reviewed at the facilities and purchasing meeting, as noted in Mr. Driscoll's report. Okay, so the administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the following action items. Award the contract to repair the security system at Harriton High School. Award the contract for seal coating at Glenwood Elementary. The contract for the chiller control interface replacement at Lower Merion High School, and to repair the lift at Ballackinwood Middle School. Approve Plan Cons Parts A and B, prepared by Spiesel Architectural Group for the use in continuing the design and or construction process for developing documentation for Act 34 process required for construction of the new middle school and for any use as may be required by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. Approve the agreement with Reynolds Construction LLC for construction management services for the demolition of the existing structures and construction of the middle school at 1860 West Montgomery Avenue. That fixed amount is $1,918,000. Should the district pursue lead certification, Reynolds will provide professional services based upon an hourly rate in a not-to-exceed amount of $70,000. Approve advanced protection company proposal for security services at 1860 West Montgomery Avenue for a not-to-exceed fee of $70,000. Approve the Sixth Amendment for professional services with Spiesel Architectural Group for a not-to-exceed amount of $855,000. Approve the change orders for masonry facade restoration at Penville Elementary School and hazardous material abatement at 1860 West Montgomery Avenue.
Okay, are there any questions on those items? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? The motion passes. Can we go back to F now, please?
The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approve the attached professional services with Chester Valley Engineers, Inc. for classroom additions at Harriton High School for not to exceed amount of $25,000.
Okay, are there any questions at this time? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
At this time, there's discussion. So, David?
Thank you. I appreciated Commissioner Churchill's comments. However, my comments are a little more basic. I raised these at the facilities meeting, and I did vote to move this on to our meeting so everyone could vote on it. But I still have, I think we're putting the cart before the horse. We have not approved, although it has been written about, talked about for a number of years, as President Gilbert has said, the issue of additional classrooms, science classrooms at Harriton. But we have never really discussed it as a board. There's been no vote. We have not voted to do that. And until I do not believe we should submit, have this expenditure and submit plans to the township before we actually vote to go forward with it. And so therefore, I'm going to be voting no.
Okay, David, I just want to offer a clarification, and perhaps Ken can give his input on this. My understanding is that this is the vote and the time for discussion whether or not to start moving forward. In other words, we didn't do that for any other facility in which we take a vote on the facility. We take a vote on actually spending money in order to begin the process. So this is the time. So if you'd like to have that discussion, this is the time to have the discussion.
Well, then I'd move to table this because we've never had the discussion. There's been no recommendation from the administration. We haven't had the numbers. The 10-day numbers, if you want to have a full discussion, I don't think anyone here at this table is prepared to do that. I would therefore move the table. It's because at the facilities meeting, I raised this, excuse me, and no one suggested. And in fact, the idea was, because of the zoning, to put this in to have the benefit of the old zoning, whether or not we decide to move forward with the additions, is exactly what we did at Penn Win. We have not voted to have those, to have a full.
I'm going to have to, I think, I hear what you're saying, that you want to have more
Well,
discussion
this
on that.
process is totally wrong, if that's what you're saying.
This
We're
is-
voting on the additions tonight? Is that what you're saying?
No, we are voting
To
on
spend
the
$10
ability.
million?
No, we will have to vote to do that. My point is, we do not vote, we do not take a vote on a non-action item for anything, David. So, in other words, if you don't want to move forward with this, with the tentative sketch plan, now would be the time to discuss that. At the next time when we have to vote to spend more money, that's when we take those votes. That's my understanding. There's no independent vote on whether to move forward on the addition of the high school classrooms or anything else.
Yep. Anytime there's an action item on something is an appropriate time to have the discussion, as much or as little of it as you want. There's no, as Dr. Gilbert said, you never say, we're taking a vote to build, you never took a vote to build a new middle school. What you did was, well, not in those so many words. What you did was, okay, we voted to hire architects, we vote to hire engineers, we vote to do this, we vote to put something out for bid. You voted to approve contracts. It wasn't really until you voted to approve the contracts that you basically said, we're committed to building this building at this place. It's kind of a process. So the truth is, anywhere along the line is appropriate to have the conversation.
All I was trying to say was that the idea that this is somehow out of process, I don't believe is correct, and that if you would like to have the discussion on whether or not to move forward with this is the time. And there will be other opportunities. So at this time, people are just, can discuss whether or not to move forward with the not to exceed amount of $25,000 for the tentative sketch plans. We can have that conversation.
Yeah. To be clear, though, this approval of this does not commit the district to making the improvements.
Exactly. So I just want to make it clear, though, because it sounded to me like you were saying there was supposed to have been some vote on the larger issue, and we don't do it that way.
But what I'm suggesting is that you're misinterpreting what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is I still believe we're putting the cart before the horse. I do not believe that we should go forward with this tonight. I'm voting against it.
That's perfectly fine. I just heard you saying that the process was not an appropriate process. You can make the argument that we're putting the cart before the horse, but this is the process which we use.
Well, we're using this process because of the zoning changes. That's why we're doing this tonight.
We are very clear.
If it wasn't for the zoning changes, we wouldn't be entertaining this
No,
tonight.
in fact, we would be waiting to continue to look at our numbers.
Exactly.
But because we won't have that option moving forward, if the zoning gets voted in, we're choosing to move forward now to protect our ability to provide classrooms for our students at Harriton. Now, you may decide that that's not important, and the rest of us will have to actually weigh in on that.
Well, the way you just said that, whether it's important or not, is not the issue. Obviously, educating our children is important to me, just as it is to you and everyone else sitting around this table, as well as the people sitting in the audience. So that's not the issue. The issue for me is that I do not believe that we should move forward at this time with the $25,000 contract. That's all. Period.
I hear you.
And I do not believe that if, in fact, in the future, we do, in fact, need classrooms at Harriton, I do not believe that the Board of Commissioners will stand in our way, period.
I appreciate that. Would anybody else like to make a comment about this?
So, I guess I have a couple points of view on this. Where we are in enrollment growth is a 15-year history. So the plans that Dr. Gilbert referred to were 2013-14, somewhere along those lines, where the options two of the options discussed were to build an addition at Harriton or expand classrooms into the DAO over our heads. The decision of the board at that time was to expand classrooms over our heads, so which I think was the right decision for a whole host of reasons. But what it has done is it is maximizing, and I think this is the right thing, this facility, this campus, which means on the flip side, there really isn't much more we can do at this campus. There's a little bit, but not much more. If enrollment does get to be overly large, there will be no third middle school. Building this third high school, building this third middle school is proving to be difficult enough, and we struggle to find land and et cetera, et cetera. I really don't believe there'll be a third high school in Lower Merion's immediate future, which means we need to maximize what we have, and that's what this is. I can appreciate, I understand working with the commissioners, and I've been accused of probably being the worst one to work with them. But on the weird hand, I don't understand how we went from having a certain amount of impervious a year ago. It did get larger when they changed it, but it's now less than what we had 2 or 3 years ago. And I don't see how that, knowing we had plans already, they were very public, what we would have done, what we've kind of got in the back of our minds for what we could do if needed, to make it harder for us. And my last comment on this, and this is one that I just fervently believe, is the odds of us needing this Harrington expansion next year or the year after is pretty low. I don't deny that, like in the immediate future. But at some point, we've got to look out for the next board. And this, to the extent we can look forward and say, hey, we've put our stake in the ground. We're going to do what we can for you guys who are going to come later, as long as this will last, to help them out, I think is an obligation of this board to not sell the next board up the river where they have to argue over zoning changes. And, you know, the history of the middle school, I mean, it was an ugly fight to get those zoning changes. You were here, it was ugly. It wasn't easy. So I don't want to sit there and tell the next board, don't worry, it's no problem, you'll get it. I think this is the prudent thing to do, given the time to help the next board and our students.
Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment?
I do. I have a question and then a comment. And I don't know, Ken, whether this goes to you or Jim. Is there an expiration date on a tentative sketch if we apply? Do we have to go forward with the project by a certain date? Like if I get a permit for my home, if I don't do the work in a certain time frame, I have to reapply for another permit?
I'm going to give you my best answer. I'm sorry, what?
Oh, it's 5 years?
It's 5 years.
If you get approval of tentative sketch, you have a year to submit preliminary plan. After you get preliminary plan approval, I believe you have 5 years to actually execute the plan.
Okay, so if we approve this expenditure, then we have to do something within a year in order to maintain our...
But it would only be paperwork. You wouldn't have to build it. You would just submit.
No, but you'd have to have plans. It wouldn't
Correct.
just be paperwork. It would be an expense to create that paperwork.
But you wouldn't physically
that design.
You wouldn't have to physically put a shovel in the ground.
No, but you would have to hire someone to make to do the design, correct?
To do the preliminary plan application within that year.
Okay, so then my comment is, while it's 5 years to actually put a shovel in the ground, it's only 1 year to go forward with additional expenditures to actually reserve our right to build based on this, is it tentative sketch? Is that what we're talking about?
That's possible. It's also, we just heard Commissioner Churchill say they're not going to pass any land development code this year. So we could withdraw and refile it and to get more time at some point, if that's in fact correct. Plus, there are extensions that can be given.
Okay, so if Mr. Churchill is correct that it's not going to be, the plan's not going to be, the new zoning code's not going to be approved this year, then we do, I mean, we have not had any extensive discussion about whether we want to actually go forward with this project. This is more reserving our rights for the future. And while it sounds like we might now have a couple of more months before we actually lose that cushion or that opportunity to apply, maybe David's right, let's delay this for a little bit and have a conversation.
I just want to understand clearly, Mr. Churchill, are you guaranteeing us that the zoning that you've been working on for the last few years is not actually going to be voted upon this Wednesday evening? Because I don't hear that from a lot of the other commissioners, frankly.
With our president, Dan Bernheim, and I had a discussion today, and it's the zoning, he plans to table the zoning code proposal, and that he's going to lay out a timeline in which he thinks that we're not going to get involved in educational institutional zoning until next year. He mentioned the March, but I feel very comfortable that the zoning will not pass and will be tabled on Wednesday.
Well, I appreciate that update. I've been waiting for a phone call from President Bernheim, who was supposed to be calling me back around some of these issues, but I will say at this time that we can always vote to move this forward and then at a future time withdraw if we decide to do that. I am very uncomfortable with, this is our last chance to be able to vote on this issue prior to the upcoming vote of the commissioners, and my experience has been that things change very rapidly, often with any government board and the Board of Commissioners. And so, we're still discussing this at this time. I feel very strongly that I would like to, protect our ability to build classrooms at Harriton High School if we need them as existing under the current code. And again, I will emphasize that the current code does allow us more impervious at Harriton than the previous code, but our plans are capable of being done under the previous impervious. So I just want to make that very clear that this doesn't have anything to do with the ordinance that was enacted around the time that 1860 was approved. So are there other people who have any questions or comments?
we're saying that if we vote for this is just saying that we are going to pursue the possibilities of adding the classrooms, not that we're planning to build them now.
There would need to be, in other words, we're taking a vote about tentative sketch and paying for the tentative sketch plans that we would need to have in order to be able to put the tentative sketch plans in by a date that would preserve our right. But at a future, do you want to correct me?
Well, I just want to be clear. The application has been filed. This is to pay for the services of the engineer who prepared that the sketch plan application has already been filed to preserve the timeline.
So this is to pay for work that's already been done?
To pay for work that's been done, yes.
That we had,
That the administration is authorized to, this is administrative action. You as a board are not required and have never been the ones to authorize submission of applications. You authorize the project. It's the same thing happened at Penn Win. So that's why the Penn Win application was basically already done because of plans that had been done several years ago. This required an additional amount of work, which the superintendent has authorization to move forward based upon the procurement authority which you've given to the superintendent. This is to ratify that expenditure.
right, which is, go ahead. No, which I'm saying, which has been, we have been informed about this all the way through. So this is not new information.
Yeah, I think essentially what you're saying is it will be very hard to do expansion of any kind under this new zoning code, which may or may not be voted on. And we're trying to preserve future flexibility if we do need to expand our facilities, which is how it's been presented to the board.
And this is $25,000, which is within the ability.
Okay.
And so if in fact we then move to go ahead at the next steps, the board at that time will actually have to vote to be able to do that.
Right, okay. And some people, just for the benefit of, because this is being discussed without a lot of context, but the impervious versus impervious is, some people may not even know what that term is. So if someone could just briefly say what we're talking about so everyone knows.
Why don't we let Jim do that? Is that okay, Mr. Copeland?
Impervious surface is anything that water cannot pass through. So with respect to our campuses, the following things are impervious: building roofs, sidewalks that are made of concrete, and all of the parking. So on a school campus, you have far more impervious than you do with a single-family home.
Right, and there's also requirements for how much parking is required to be provided for any facility, correct?
In addition to parking, you have to get 72 passenger buses in and out of a property, pick children up, turn them around, get them out.
Right,
It does take impervious that is above what you would have for a single-family home.
okay. And we do support all the attempts to maintain the environmental integrity of the township. It's just, we're trying to make sure we can expand as needed in a very prudent way. Okay, thanks.
Just have one more question.
Sure, go ahead, Dave.
Ken, if this is for work that's already been performed, why don't we have a specific price on the contract? It says not to exceed $25,000. If they've done the work, we should have an invoice at a set price.
That's a Jim Lowe question.
We won't receive that invoice till the end of the month. That's how they do their billing.
So,
This was your
This
first, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first opportunity the board has had since the work was authorized by the superintendent.
right.
So this would have been your first time to be able to, this would have been your first opportunity to ratify what was
Yeah,
done
and
by the
this is-
superintendent. Is that correct, Jim?
That is correct.
So if if the work has already been done and the superintendent has already authorized the expenditure, then, and we don't have a bill yet, and it's not going to hold up it's already been submitted, so it's not holding anything up to wait. We might as well wait till we have the actual number and approve it in the list of bills as we would any other bill. Why approve and not to exceed?
Okay, that, I hear your opinion here. Are there other questions or discussion at this time?
I mean, my frustration is, this shouldn't even be an issue. And I mean, that's not this contract. I understand the discussion we're having here, this issue of that. My frustration with this is, we put a letter of intent on a piece of property. We told the commissioners, it ain't gonna work with the zoning code you have. We went back and forth with them for months to get the zoning code changed so 1860 could become a reality. To hear that it's a loophole, now I find troubling, because had they just gone back to where we were before, things would be different. But they've gone worse than that, and our enrollment keeps growing. So that is my frustration. And to hear oh, don't worry, we'll work it out. No. We worked on trying to get the zoning code that's up for vote Wednesday compromised, and it really didn't. And so, don't worry, we'll fix it later. I'm not so sure.
Okay, so we've got a lot of things going on here, which is probably more than most people in the audience understand, because there's a new zoning code that's proposed, that's going to be up for a vote potentially on Wednesday, although now we're hearing it may be tabled. We have been working with the commissioners for over a year in order to ensure that zoning code would enable us to expand in the way we thought we might need to. We do not feel like that was actually accommodated in the proposal. The current proposal, which may or may not be voted on, takes us to below where we were at Harriton before it got expanded to the 45% now, which I know is very confusing. But the point is that what we're trying to do right now is ensure, what is proposed to do now is to ensure that we have what we need in order to be able to potentially build science classrooms at Harriton. And I think that is the issue on the table. I think it is a point of pride in this district that our students are allowed to take multiple science classes, and that at this point, I am going to move past discussion. I think we've had a discussion, unless anybody else has anything else they want to say. And we already have a motion and a second, right? So at this point, we are voting. Would you like a roll call?
Did you move that we table this?
I withdraw the motion. Well,
Okay.
I didn't move.
I apologize. Would you like to vote on the
Whoa,
move?
whoa, 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 but it wasn't
Can't-
seconded.
If there was
Well, we had
a,
discussion.
we
so-
had a second
No.
and a discussion, and then you vote.
You move to table, when there's a second, you stop discussion, and you immediately vote on the motion to table, but it was never seconded.
Okay. Okay, so we're now voting on the motion itself. Would you like a roll call vote? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Abstain? I think that means no abstentions. The motion passes. And that was F. We already did G. We did H, correct? We are now at a policy committee meeting report by Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. In terms of updates, the policy committee has successfully completed our update of the 100 series of policies, and as such, we're moving on to the 200 series. Additional policies that have been referred to the strategic planning subcommittee include policy 132 homework, which was there last year, but policy 133 academic class rank, policy 212 reporting pupil progress, policy 213 grading of student progress, policy 217 high school graduation requirements. Additional information will be presented on these policies when they're ready for first reading. The administration is also looking into merging the policies in the 300, 400, and 500 series, which govern employees, to eliminate redundancies in the next few months. For first reading, we went through policy 220, courses beyond instructional program. The purpose of this policy is to provide direction regarding students who complete an instructional program sequence in any academic discipline of the high school curriculum prior to graduation. The policy details what the district will do and will not provide so as to continue to challenge the student academically prior to graduation. Students are encouraged to apply for an independent study course as provided by the district. Policy 240, makeup work because of absence, is proposed for repeal as it will be incorporated into policy 207, attendance. Policy 241 was reviewed, releasing pupils during the school day, which is proposed for repeal, as it will be also incorporated into 207, attendance. Policy 242, obtaining high school diploma in less than 4 years. A high school diploma will be awarded by the board in less than 4 years in the event that a student completes the requisite credit and course requirements through the successful course completion in regular or summer school at the high school level or at another accredited high school. Students are recommended to work closely with their counselor, and final approval rests with the building principal. Policy 243, campus privileges, is proposed for repeal due to obsolescence. And policy 255, confidentiality of social security numbers, is proposed for repeal due to obsolescence as well. We don't collect social security numbers, so we don't need to safeguard them at the moment. Policy in AR 800, records management. The purpose of this policy in AR is to clarify how, which, and when records will be retained, stored, and/or destroyed. Then we had other topics discussed, which was policy 239, which will come back for a first reading next month. Awards, scholarships, and contests sponsored by outside organizations. The district encourages students to participate in worthwhile activities, whether school-sponsored or not. However, the district shall not encourage any activity that materially interferes with instructional efforts or limits instructional time. Further, the district will not encourage, support, or facilitate student participation in award scholarships or contests that require a student fee for consideration. This policy details where and when information about such programs can be shared with students. We also discussed 2 administrative regulations, AR 915, school-related organizations. The change to these regulations are to provide guidance for HSAs when providing enrichment activities for for students either before or after school within the school building. Appendix B has been added to facilitate these procedures, including but not limited to getting clearances. AR 207 attendance was adjusted to incorporate the policies that were proposed for repeal, such as policy 240, makeup work due to absence, and policy 241, release students from the school day. We briefly teed up policy 215, promotion and retention, which will be discussed next month, and the next policy committee meeting will be held on October 11th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Robinson. The following were reviewed for first reading, as was just reported. Policy 220, courses beyond instructional program. Policy 240, makeup work because of absence, proposed for repeal and incorporate into policy 207, attendance. Policy 241, releasing pupils during the school day, proposed for repeal and incorporated into policy 207, attendance. Policy 242, obtaining a high school diploma in less than 4 years. Policy 243, campus privileges, proposed for repeal. Policy 255, confidentiality of social security numbers, proposed for repeal because we don't have them. And policy AR 800, records management. So because they're first reads, we don't take a vote at this time. If they're brought back for a second read is when we'll take a vote. At this time, I'd like to ask for audience recognition on any issue, agenda or non-agenda, comments, questions. If you would like to speak, please come sign in with Ms. LaPera. Please state your name and generally where you live, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Ruth Jenkin, Wynwood. I have a question from last week's discussion on the gifted and the program that Dr. Paul talked about. You had all of the identifiers of the grade and the ethnic background, but what you didn't include was gender. And I would like to see how that works out also. Just put that into the mix, please. And the second thing I just wanted to talk about was $797 a day for the psychiatrist. How many days are we going to be using the psychiatrist? It's a rhetorical question.
No. Okay, are you done?
Yes.
You're doing good. Thank you very much. Please.
Hi, Jen Kelly, Penn Valley. And I came in late, so I apologize if this was addressed earlier. But with regards to the impervious, I'm wondering if you covered what it is exactly, what level you need for the expansion at Harridan and also 1860. And my question is because I thought right now you have 45%, and I thought with the new code, with the submission of a campus plan, you get to 45 to 47%. So is the concern that the campus plan process is too arduous or ambiguous, and that you want that stated by right in the code, or that 47% is not adequate for the new school? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I have questions about
Do you mind telling us your name?
Theodore Eisenstein, and I live in Bala-Cynwyd.
Hi,
I have
welcome.
questions about two of the things that happened. Something that was talked about earlier in the meeting was about science classrooms in Harridan being built, and whether it should be brought to a vote presently. And it seemed like that a significant number of you didn't understand what was even being voted upon. And I think that the claim that that you guys aren't ready to vote for it is valid in that situation, because if there is this much confusion at the stage of voting, there should be hesitance to actually vote on that. And secondly, on Policy 243, when talking about proposing for repealing campus privileges, what exactly does that mean? Is that talking about repealing lunch and learn within the high schools, or any of the other academic freedoms that are afforded?
Thank you very much. Do you want to go first, or can I say something first? I appreciate your perspective that people weren't sure what they were voting for, but I think that we were all very clear about whether or not we were voting in order to approve the funding for this tentative sketch plans for the Harriton Science classrooms, and we had a lot of questions about that, but I think everybody was pretty clear what they were voting for.
Yes, and Mrs. Jenkins, we can certainly take a look at providing the information for gender. I don't think we have that data with us right now, do we? And gifted and talented, we don't have that, so we can certainly get that to you. In terms of Harriton, I'll ask Mr. Lill to respond to the issue of the campus plan.
Thank you, Mr. Copeland. The zoning code that was advertised bases impervious coverage on the most restrictive zoning that adjoins the property. So different properties in different portions of the township are going to have different impervious limits because it depends on what your most restrictive adjoining is, what the residential zone is that's next door to you, which is different, campus to campus. So in the case of Harriton High School, the most restrictive abutting district will be an LDR1, which has an impervious limit of 20%. The zoning code then adds another 10% to that for a public school, which puts us at 30%. The Harriton campus, as we sit here today, already has 30.6. We would be non-conforming. At one point, the zoning code was going to allow another 5% to be added to that to accommodate the fact that it would be non-conforming upon the adoption of the code. At the last minute, that was taken out. With reference to the campus plan, we really can't speak to that. That has not been finalized. So there's an enormous unknown there for a set of regulations that, from what we've seen, are onerous, but it hasn't been finalized. So I just offer that as observation.
Thank you. I think we also had some significant concern with the campus plan because we believe it's all well and good for independent schools and other schools that have the ability to limit themselves, but application to a public school, we have strong reservations about. In terms of policy 243, Mrs. Schaefer?
Can I just add one thing about the campus plan issue as well? My understanding of the campus plan was that it was for institutions needed to demonstrate.
They had to demonstrate whether they were doing the public good. And we objected over the fact that by definition, public schools are in fact a public good, and we should have that by right. So just. Mrs. Schaefer on the policy? No, lunch and learn is not going anywhere.
You took my thunder there. Yes, with respect to the recommended repeal of policy 243, that wouldn't impact lunch and learn. The campus privileges policy relates to basically off-campus opportunities during the school day, which is not something we currently permit.
Can I just ask a question about that then? Weren't we folding that into a different policy? We were repealing it so that we could then fold it into a different policy? Or is that not that one?
We did discuss the student rights and responsibilities policy that does cover students, freedom to go off campus. To the extent that that's an opportunity, we could embed that in the policy, but that's not currently our practice.
Okay. And I think students view campus privilege not just going off, but if you have a study hall junior and senior year, you can opt not to take the study hall, and so that's not going away either, correct?
That is how it's explained to us. That is how it's explained to us, the term campus privilege, meaning being able to move throughout the school.
Correct.
During certain sets.
Right. So we're not revoking those types of privileges as they're used in sort of probably within the school context, but the official campus privileges policy does relate to off-campus opportunities, which we are proposing for repeal. So we'll clarify that certainly with the administrators to make sure what we're intending to do and what we're not intending to do with that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Roos, can you read the Sunshine Act
Yes.
updates?
There was a question on how many days the psychologist was going to work.
Yes, so the psychologist will be in place through CCIU until our district psychologist returns from leave. So right now, we anticipate semester 1 without knowing for sure what will happen for semester 2.
Thank you, sorry. It's every day she shows up, yeah, or he.
Yes, there was executive session last Monday night, September 9th, regarding land, basically regarding land acquisition real estate matters. There was also executive session tonight regarding, again, threatened litigation and regarding labor relations and personnel matters.
Thank you. Upcoming board meeting dates. The October 14th Education Committee will be at 8 p.m. in this room. October 21st regular business board meeting is going to be at 8 p.m., but in the Lower Marion High School auditorium. And then the following committee meetings will be held in the boardroom at 8:30 a.m. September 25th, Communications, October 8th, Curriculum, October 11th, Policy, and October 17th, Facilities and Purchasing. Thank you very much, and we are adjourned.